Chapter 1. The Land That Burns Forever. The sun over the Brazos did not rise. It clawed its way upward, slow and red, like some wounded thing trying to escape the horizon. The land beneath it was not yet Texas, not yet anything, just wilderness stitched with rivers and bones. Elias McGraw rode into it with a hunger that had no name. He was 26 years old and already looked twice that. Skin cracked from sun and dust, a shirt the color of old parchment, and a rifle that had seen more killing than he cared to remember. He had left Tennessee behind in a flood of debts and ghosts. He had come west because men were saying there was land here, free land, if you were willing to bleed for it. The year was 1835, and the world was turning upside down. Mexico held the land, but barely. The settlers were restless, and the old tribes of the plains were watching the newcomers the way a hawk watches a wounded rabbit. Elias didn't know or care much about politics. He only wanted a piece of earth to die on that he could call his own. He reached the Brazos River just as the last light broke across the water. There was smoke in the distance, not the gentle smoke of a homestead, but the dark, rising kind that spoke of violence. He paused on the ridge and watched. The wind carried faint screams. He kicked his horse. Chapter 2. The Road to San Felipe. They rode through the night, the boy half asleep against Elias's chest, his small hands clutching at the torn fabric of the man's coat. The wind carried the smell of wet ash and horses, the scent of a land on the edge of war. Elias didn't speak. There was nothing to say. He followed the faint starlight along the dirt track that bent south toward San Felipe de Austin, where men said a council was gathering, settlers, soldiers, and dreamers, all arguing whether to fight or flee. By dawn they reached a small creek, and Elias stopped to let the horse drink. The boy stirred. "What's your name, son?" Elias asked. The boy blinked, lips cracked. "Thomas," he whispered. "Thomas what?" "Thomas Gray." Elias nodded slowly. The Gray homestead had been one of the first settlements along the Brazos. I remember hearing about it from a trader weeks back. Good folks, God-fearing, raised corn and hogs, kept to themselves. Now all gone but one. He handed the boy a strip of dried meat from his pack. Thomas chewed.
The man nodded. "You find half the countryside headed that way. Name's Samuel Harlan, out of Kentucky. We're fixing to join Austin's militia." Elias nodded. "You reckon war's coming?" Harlan spat into the dust. "War's already here. Only question is, who will still be standing when the smoke clears?" Another man, younger, red-haired, with eyes too bright, stepped forward. "They say the Mexicans are bringing cannon up from Bexar. Santa Anna himself's marching north." Elias felt the words settle in his gut like stones. Harlan tilted his hat back. "You look like a man who can shoot. You'd be welcome to ride with us." Elias shook his head. "Got a boy to see safe first." Harlan studied him, then smiled a little. "Ain't no safety left, friend, but you do what you gotta do." He reached into his pack and tossed Elias a strip of jerky. "If you make it to San Felipe, tell him we're coming, and tell him Harlan aims to stand his ground." Elias nodded, tucking the food away. As he turned to weave, he glanced back once. Chapter 3. The Council of Fire. When Elias and the boy reached San Felipe de Austin, the town was already swollen with people. Farmers in patched coats, soldiers in mismatched boots, women clutching children and Bibles, wagons creaking under the weight of all they owned. It wasn't a town anymore. It was a fort of fear and purpose, a gathering storm waiting to break.
Smoke from cook fires drifted through the streets, mingling with the smell of gunpowder, horses, and sweat. Men argued outside the tavern, voices raw with anger and conviction. Some wanted peace with Mexico, others called for blood. Elias tied his horse outside the livery and lifted Thomas down. The boy's eyes darted everywhere, wide, restless, trying to take in this wild hive of strangers. "Stay close," he said. Inside the tavern, the noise hit like a wave. Barrels served as tables, and the walls were hung with old muskets and hunting horns. A preacher was shouting scripture over the din, while another man scribbled furiously on parchment, drafting what would one day be called a declaration. Elias pushed through until he found a quiet corner. A man with silver hair and a calm, commanding face stood at the center of the room, speaking low but firm. Someone whispered, "That's Stephen F. Austin himself." Elias listened. Austin's voice carried the weight of someone who had buried dreams before. "We have tried reason. We have sent petitions, letters, envoys. Mexico has answered with soldiers and prisons. Santa Ana means to break us. So I say this plainly. If Texas is to live, it must fight." A murmur rippled through the crowd, half fear, half fire. One man shouted, "Then let it be war!" Another slammed his mug down. "You talk brave, sir, but war's easy to call for when it ain't your children burnin'." Elias felt Thomas flinch at that word, burning. Austin raised his hand. "Every man here knows the cost, but liberty never comes cheap. We are not rebels. We are Texians, and we fight for the right to live free upon this land." Elias watched him, and something stirred in his chest. Not belief, not yet, but a strange sense that this man was speaking for all the nameless wanderers who had come west seeking a piece of earth to die on. After the meeting broke, Elias turned to go, but a tall figure stopped him.